Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I'm pretty sure you are completely aware of what we're going to be discussing today, although it may have come to some of you as a surprise because I don't think everyone here knew that I was pregnant. Some of my YouTube family are strictly just my YouTube family, and you guys aren't friends with me on Facebook or following me on Instagram. Nonetheless, I appreciate you guys for checking in and watching this video. I just want to go ahead and get right into it. I tried to record this video so many times, y'all. Today has been, or the past few days have been rough AF, okay? And so I'm just really hoping that I can just like push through this and get it done. So I would like to start just by explaining everything that I went through the day prior to delivering my daughter and what life is like now living without her. So May 19th is when my husband and I found out that my daughter had passed away. Yeah. Everything leading up to that point was completely normal though. We had never heard the word perfect so many times in our lives. At that point, I was 41 weeks. Her due date was just 7 days prior to that. I was having appointments weekly. We got ultrasounds and NSTs, which are non-stress tests. They check the baby's heart rate and monitor me to see if I'm having any contractions. I did have false labor like a few days prior to. I had called the hospital. I, went through the whole thing. Like we thought like that was it. That was the moment. I did not go to the hospital because my contractions were not close enough. And I had a doctor's appointment the following day, and she made a complete fool out of me the following day because I went in and I was not having any contractions. Like it was like nothing the night prior. Like I had made everything up. It was so crazy. So from there, I'm fast forwarding back to May 19th. I got up. My routine was to have breakfast, shower, work. I'm working from home. So all of that was completely normal. I felt great. I was just, doing my daily talk with her and, my affirmations and just hoping because this mama was tired, okay? I was exhausted. I'm like, okay, any day now, young lady, you can definitely come, okay? I would appreciate it so much. So everything that morning was completely fine. I had an appointment, and on the way to the appointment is when things kind of took a turn for me. I hadn't felt her move in a while, so that was alarming to me. But we were in the car on our way to the appointment. My husband was driving. I was actually resting my hand on my stomach because I was holding my phone. That's something that I did. And usually she would kick if anything was placed on my stomach. So at that point I was trying to wake her up. I like pressed what felt like her foot. I'm like pushing her foot. I'm not getting a response. My heart just like sank into my stomach. But I'm like, you know what? I'm not even about to be alarmed about something that's not a big deal. She's just sleeping right now. And I didn't want to, like, I never expected the worst out of my pregnancy at all whatsoever. So anyhow, we get to the appointment. Everything is normal. In the middle of the pandemic, my husband isn't allowed to come into the doctor's office with me. And this has been a thing for like the past month and a half, really. So that was our new norm. But I would either like call him or FaceTime him, let him know what's going on. The ultrasounds, she was, you know, so big. It was really like nothing to even see at that point. You couldn't even make out what was what. There were no cute little profile pictures that we were getting in the beginning anymore because she was humongous. So anyway, we would usually FaceTime, where I would call him. Our appointments would kind of be quick. Like, I would have the ultrasound and I would go do the NST. And most times the NST would go fine. She was extremely busy, so sometimes I would have to be on there a little bit longer because they would try to piece together the NST, because she's like moving around all the time. So it would kind of like affect what her heart rate looked like. So this day was just like every other appointment day. So I go inside and the ultrasound tech is not the one who's usually there, which I'm still familiar with her because she's done like a couple of my ultrasounds before. So she asked me how I was doing, and you know, we briefly chatted. I explained to her I was tired because I was and ready for this baby to make her debut. So I get up on the table and she puts the jelly on my stomach. She's like wanding away, looking for the baby's heartbeat. At this time, I didn't know that's what she was looking for, but just like reflecting back. So she just had this like really blank look on her face, and she wasn't blinking. Now, on the way there, I felt like something was wrong. So at this point, I'm having like heart palpitations, right? Because I'm like, something is wrong. She's not saying anything. She's just like completely silent. The ultrasound monitor is facing her, so I couldn't see it at that time. Usually they'll look and then like turn it around. So then she asked me, when was the last time you felt the baby move? And I said last night, and that honestly was the last time I felt her move. Because I had made s'mores. My baby loves sweet stuff, okay? She loved food, period. Anytime I ate, she was like amped up, okay? So she got her kick counts like this. It didn't dawn on me that she didn't respond or react how she usually does when I eat, when I have breakfast that morning, because usually when I'm up and moving around, which I had breakfast like before we left. So usually when I'm up and moving around, she isn't as active. And then her kicks and movement had become less prominent anyway as she got larger. Like as I got further along in my pregnancy, those jabs weren't as jabby. I could feel her like flip and like turn, and she was still kicking and things like that. But like I said, they weren't as prominent as they once were because she was so big. So when she asked me when was the last time I felt her moving, I let her know it was last night. I had something sweet. It was late, you know, and I was about to go to bed. And it was so much tension. And I think I asked her, is something wrong? And she told me, I'm going to go get the doctor. I called my husband and I said, something is wrong with the baby. You need to come inside. And he's like, why are you saying that? What are they saying? What's wrong? And the next thing I know, he's like coming in the door. The doctor's there. The doctor adds more jelly to my stomach, and she does the same thing. She's like trying to look to see what the ultrasound tech had just told her. Whatever that was, because at this point I didn't know. So she asked me the same question. When was the last time I felt the baby move? And I told her that it was the night before. And she looked at me and said, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but your baby doesn't have a heartbeat. And I said, okay. But like I'm literally like reliving that moment, and it's so crazy how I could just like feel everything that I felt that day. I had an outer body experience. It was like so heavy in the room. I couldn't believe what I heard her say, and I'm like, okay was the only word that I could articulate at the time. My mind was actually racing, so many things going through it, and I could just say, okay. And from there, I went into panic mode. The first person that I had to tell was my mom, which I text her while I was sitting there. I text her, my baby died. She calls me screaming, crying, yelling on the phone. Couldn't understand anything she was saying. My husband is on the phone. He broke down crying and left out. The ultrasound tech and doctor are still there, and I'm just sitting there like numb to everything happening around me. It was that's not what I had just heard. It made me feel like I was dreaming, like I was having a nightmare. But again, I went into panic and like fear mode because I just found out that my baby didn't have a heartbeat, which means that my baby is not alive. My baby is still inside of me, not alive. And they were telling me like, you don't have to go to the hospital right away. You guys can wait. If you want to take some time to process it, that's okay. If you want to go to the hospital tomorrow, just let us know, whatever you need. And then they had us go into an examination room and told us that we can stay there as long as we needed to. And I told them, like, we're gonna go to the hospital today. I'm not gonna be able to wait. I mean, I guess I'm just gonna have to process this while I'm at the hospital, but going home is not gonna make anything better for me. It's not gonna change anything, so we're just gonna go. So that's what we did. We went to the hospital from there. The entire time though, like, I was broken that my baby had died, and I could not believe that that was like really a reality. But even more so, I was told like I had to deliver her, and C-section, which I would have never opted for a C-section, you know, in any other situation. But I just hearing that that wasn't even an option unless it was considered an emergency, that was rough for me. I'm like, and I was thinking of the psychological effects more so than anything else, because I'm like, my baby is not alive. I'm about to go through all of this pain. I'm about to do everything that we had anticipated on doing this entire time to experience the best day of our lives, only for me to not even hear my baby cry. I did not want to do it. I wanted to just be able to wake up and it just all be over. So, we get to the hospital, and one of our midwives is there. She knows, she was expecting us. She was very, very gentle, which the staff and my doctor, they're really amazing. So I appreciated a lot the support that they offered. Everything went as we were told would go, as far as the check-in process, the workup, and having to take a coronavirus test. So did that. We were told the results will come back in an hour. So that happened. Hour went by. They came back wanting to talk to us, and that's when we were told, okay, so your coronavirus test came back positive. So from here and out, for the second time today, I'm having a fucking outer body experience, because what are you even saying right now? My coronavirus test came back positive. Okay. What? But I couldn't, again, articulate anything. The only word that I could say was okay. That's it. I literally had to like start calling my husband risk management, because anything else people told me, I was saying okay to. I was just like, okay. They could have said anything that made absolutely no sense. Like everything else that I had heard in the past, I don't know how many hours, none of the shit made sense. So all I could do, my mouth could literally only form the word okay. So from there, they're like, we have to move you to the other side of the hospital. There's a wing. It's still labor and delivery. It's moms that have been exposed to the coronavirus and have the coronavirus, and that's where we're gonna have you deliver. So we have to pack everything up, and they ship me away to the coronavirus wing. And from there we start talking about medications to induce me, because still this girl was not ready to come. I'm 41 weeks, and it's like week 30. She's just chilling. My body was not going into labor on its own. So we talked about what the medications were, what they do, how long they'll take, how many milligrams, the whole nine. And we started off with misoprostol, which I was taking that orally every 4 hours. From Tuesday afternoon when we got there all the way to Tuesday night, to the point where the midwife let us know, okay, well, you know, I'm not contracting much. They checked me one time. I was only, I want to say, like 2 centimeters dilated. So not much progress was being made after being on this medication for so many hours. So then the suggestion was made to me to have some other procedure where they put these like needles basically that expand in your cervix to soften it, open it up, make it dilate. That over some other options, including what do you call it? Geez, now I'm drawing a blank, because I absolutely did not want it at all whatsoever, because most times people associate this medication with excruciating pain. So I was just like, oh no, absolutely not. We're not doing that. So anyhow, it was suggested that I do the misoprostol at a higher dosage and have it inserted vaginally. So I did that. I was saying okay, first of all, to everything. And my husband like, no, what are the risks with that? Okay, so if she does this, what could potentially happen versus if she does this? Oh, how many milligrams is that? Why is it such a higher dose than what we're starting off with? Me, I'm sitting there like, okay. So anyway, we did the misoprostol at 400 milligrams inserted vaginally. Now, mind you, I had so many doses of this stuff at 50 milligrams orally. Nothing happened. Got the thing 400 milligrams inserted vaginally. Labor picked up, okay? It had picked up very, very swiftly. I mean, it was like it went from nothing happening to boom, having contractions. So I'm not doing anything for pain management at this time. My husband and I, like, we're just like cooling. I got the birthing ball out of the bathroom. I'm bouncing on that. We're in this huge hospital room because, mind you, they like, oh, you got the coronavirus, so you got to have this like special blank ass room. Like, there was literally nothing in it but my bed and then his chair and like the computer, and that's it. It was no curtain. It was literally nothing in there. So I had all the space in the world to walk around, to bounce around on the ball, to do whatever that I felt was necessary for a little bit of pain management, natural pain management. I took a shower, and then those contractions just started kicking in, even harder, kicking my butt, to the point where my birthing plan consisted of a natural labor and delivery, meaning no induction, no medication at all for pain management, including the epidural. That was just a big, big no. Baby, when those contractions kicked in and were so hard and strong and so close together that I barely had a minute to breathe in between them, I was like, this ain't gonna work. I'm gonna need something else, which we had already discussed throwing the birthing plan out of the window because mentally it was already a lot to bear, to process, to deal with, to have to focus on still, delivering my baby, knowing that everything that we had expected was no longer. I'm going to be delivering a dead baby. So I said, the psychological and emotional pain are enough. The physical pain, I don't want to feel it. I literally, if I could have been knocked out and they could have just woke me up and said, here's your baby, I would have. But that's just what I say before having the experience. That's where my head was. My labor and delivery was the most beautiful thing that I've ever experienced in my life. And I thank my husband for that. I really don't even know how I would have done that without him. The level of support, he turned into a whole doula, midwife, such a great supportive husband and coach. And then the cameraman, this man was holding the leg, he had it all going on. Meanwhile, okay, I'm fast forwarding, but it just came over me because he was so great. Going back to the birthing plan going out of the window, I was like, absolutely not to that epidural. But the pain kicked in and I said, no, we're not doing this. It hurt so much. My heart was freaking hurting bad. And it almost felt physical on a very serious note. I had only felt that before when I lost my sister, which was just in December. So it was like that all over again, that pain that my heart was feeling. It was just no way that I was gonna endure all of that, knowing that when I push my baby out, I'm not gonna hear her screaming. So I'm like, what are we gonna do about meds? Okay, they suggested Tylenol, and I'm like, yeah, no, that's not gonna do it. Those contractions were very, very intense, and I tried to hold off as long as I possibly could, because I'm like, okay, I tried to hold off as long as I could, because I had heard stories about people getting the epidural and it wearing off because they were in labor for so long, pushing for so long, and I was just like, this is what my plan is. When they do a shift change, so when they come in like around 7:30, 7:45, I'm gonna ask for the epidural. At this point, I'm like pacing around the room. My husband's just looking at me like, so what you want me to do? You want me to page them? You want me to tell them like, what's up? And I'm like, trying my best to breathe through those contractions. Oh my goodness. It's literally, after everything that I've watched to try to prepare me for this, I was not prepared. I was not. Like, it's really indescribable. I really don't know how to tell anybody like how it felt, just beside, the only thing that I can say is it was excruciating pain. Excruciating. So I was just like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Epidural, period, point blank. That's a whole procedure. There's such a chain of command. The anesthesiologist, having a witness, a whole big old mess. I get the epidural, which it was fine. Again, I had my husband who was supporting me even through that. Like, everything about that whole experience was overwhelming. It was overwhelming, to say the least. Okay, so with that, the side effects of the epidural kick in. I'm like, oh, tingly and itchy and stuff. And then they're like, you get a catheter, because when you get that, waist down, no movement. Like, you're not going to be able to get up, walk around, go to the restroom, whatever. So I get the catheter. I would say 15 solid minutes into that, so much pressure, so much pain. I'm feeling my contractions. I'm feeling pain, okay? I'm telling them I'm hurting. I asked my husband, okay, because this is what works for me at home. Anytime I was in pain like that, my lower back, having Braxton Hicks, whatever, I would be on all fours. It relieved some of it, okay? Not all, but a lot of it. So since I was paralyzed from the waist down, well, I wasn't paralyzed, obviously, I asked my husband to help me roll over to get on all fours. So I use his hands for support. I pull myself over. I'm on all fours, and I'm like, whoo, this hurt. It hurts, and it hurts bad. And I'm feeling all of this pain, I'm feeling all this pressure, and I'm feeling these contractions. Why isn't the epidural working? What is going on? I'm telling them, something's not right. He calls the nurse, they come, look, and she's like, oh, well, oh wait, my husband calls the nurse. She comes in, I explain to her what I'm feeling. She then tells me that's because the baby's head is closed, the catheter, there's a balloon. She's explaining to me what a catheter is and how when you're pregnant, it can have effects on you that way. And I'm explaining to her, absolutely not. This hurts entirely. So I understand. I understand what a catheter is. I know what they look like. I know how they work. This is not right. Ma'am, I'm going to need some intervention here. So fast forward maybe like 7-8 more minutes of all of this nonsense going on, because at this point, like, the room is just spinning. I'm like, I need a fan. It was just a lot. I stuck with a few things of my birthing plan. I was playing my birthing plan, my labor and delivery playlist, my music. I had, you know, some of the music on there that I use to meditate and to do yoga. So like that was helpful. It was very helpful when I was actually getting the epidural. Because I was kind of like able to just zone out and just go there with that. None of that was working at this point. I'm like, it's time for me to push. The nurse had me get back on my back. She's like, all fours, no, we're not doing that. I lay down on my back and I'm still in so much pain that I'm like, at this point, and I'm feeling so much pressure. At this point, I'm like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna push. Our midwife had come in. From how I was laying in the bed, she could see the baby's head because I told her, I said, I'm about to push. She came over and lifted up my gown and she like checked me and was like, oh, that's baby's head, because it's not the catheter. It was not the catheter that I was feeling. It was my child's head making its way out, okay? So they removed the catheter. They're doing everything so quickly because I went from 0 to 100 just like that. It did not take much time at all. They're trying to get all of the tools out. Everyone's trying to get suited up. It's happening so fast. This nurse is holding my leg. And this is why I had fast forwarded, because my husband was so great that I just couldn't even believe he had assumed all of these responsibilities and tasks and was doing so great. Not that I thought anything less of him, but this was our first experience with childbirth together ever. So there was that. And then also in the middle of a pandemic, we couldn't take any labor and delivery courses. We did everything online. We had to do it in the comfort of our own homes, in the bed, on the TV, just like watching things virtually. That's how we did the classes because we didn't have any other choice. But he had done all of this and was doing it well, beautifully, okay? Did I say that he recorded the whole thing? Because he did. And not at any point was it out of focus? Was it just wrong? Because it wasn't. Then we got this nurse over here. She's supposed to be holding my left leg and it's just dropping. I can only hold it up so much on my own. She's over here crying, literally crying, and she's like, you're so strong, you're doing so great. And I'm like, thank you, can you hold my leg? Because like, girl, I'm trying to focus here. All I can think about is my leg falling down and me not being able to be positioned correctly for my baby to come out. I'm tapping my leg right here. Please hold it. Thank you. Got this man over here being great, and you over here, you got one job and one job only. Anyway, from there, I was only pushing for about, I want to say, it was less than 20 minutes. I probably had 6 good pushes, and she came out. Now, just a little bit about stillbirths. Of course, with this experience, I had to educate myself. There were a lot of things about going through this that had me feeling alone that I learned, no, I'm not. It's a very, very unfortunate thing to have in common with anybody, with any mother. And learning the statistics of stillbirths has aided in me coping with this whole situation, with my grieving process, the whole 9. So, unfortunately, 1 in 160 births are stillbirths. And that's about 24,000 babies a year in the United States, which is like 10 times more the rate at which babies die from SIDS, or sudden infant death syndrome, which most people know about. I won't say lots about, but it seems like it's a conversation that is had way more often. Although this is much more common. I knew what stillbirths were. I knew about stillbirths, but I always thought SIDS was much more common. Unfortunately, there are instances with stillbirths where there are no scientific explanations as to why it happened, and people are just left with feeling like it's their fault. The burden is on them. And so many times our midwives and nurses were assuring us that we had done everything that we had possibly could have done. And it was not our fault. Now for us, it was a little bit different because her umbilical cord was actually wrapped pretty good around her neck. They had already warned us that there may not be any initial indicators or anything physical that we can put our fingers on and say, this was probably it. I have accepted the fact that my baby passed away from a cord accident. Even rewatching my birth video that my husband recorded on my phone, when I was delivering her, the midwife was trying to hook her finger around the umbilical cord. She's coming out the birth canal. So I can see that, and I can say that that's what it was. And we know that sometimes babies are born with their cords wrapped around their necks and they're perfectly healthy and they're fine. Unfortunately, that wasn't our situation or circumstance. It turned out to be a little bit different. So there's that. So after the baby was born, they put her on my chest, and I was just so happy to finally be able to see her and hold her and kiss her. She wasn't even cleaned off yet. I'm just like constantly kissing her. She's so beautiful. My baby is beautiful. She is named after me. So Atavia Monet is her name. So I had to wait an hour after delivering her for recovery, and I had to ambulate to the bathroom with the assistance of the nurse, use the restroom before we were transferred to a different room. And there is where we got to bathe her and dress her. And we had a photo shoot. The nurses of the hospital did that for us. I forgot to change into my cute hospital gown that I was supposed to wear. And my hands were ashy as all get out. Oh my goodness. My eczema has been, it's clearing up now, but with pregnancy, it got 3 times worse. I wasn't able to use any of the medications that I was once using before, just because I didn't want any transference of it through the placenta. So I stopped using it, and I was just using like natural stuff for the most part. So yeah, I was just looking at ashy mess in all of our pictures, but my baby looks so stinking cute. They gave us a bunch of stuff. This is actually her little memorial box. I'll probably save this for another video to just go through it and show you guys what we were given to remember her. We did so many hand and footprints. They gave us a cute little knitted outfit. She had a coming home outfit that I ended up putting on her for her pictures at the hospital. So we just took the other one home that they gifted us. that experience was really, really emotional. It really was. I was so grateful though for how it all happened, because I felt like I got to spend so much time with her. I'm in a bunch of support groups and different groups on social media, and women and men both, they share their stories and talk about how they only got to spend 2 hours or 3 hours, or just, I mean, being able to sleep with my baby overnight was, I needed that. I needed that so bad. Even though I couldn't sleep, I kept waking up just to look at her. I kept waking up just to get as many kisses as I could. I called some family so that they could see her. I smelled her. I rubbed her hair, and like, it was just, that experience was much needed, and I'm extremely grateful for it, because those memories will be with me forever. And if I weren't able to do that, I don't know. Nonetheless, she's beautiful. She was everything that I didn't expect her to be, because she looks exactly like her dad. And we had to talk about that, several talks about that. She didn't listen to anything that I said. She even has this man's toes. I mean, I'm just like in disbelief, but the cutest baby, my cutest, the cutest thing, like our best creation. I'm so grateful. She's such an angel. She's the best thing that ever happened to me. I would do it all over again for her. And I honestly don't know what this experience is for. I don't know why we have this reality. I do understand that it affects thousands of families, and I never ever felt like I could be exempt from something like this. I understand that, you know, it happens. I wish that it was not a thing. Oh, I wish very, very much that this did not exist. I'm honestly not certain, and I don't know if I ever will be. But it is something that we are dealing with, that we are living through every single day. I miss my baby every single day. Every single day. Even if I can do my entire pregnancy over, I absolutely would. Even with all of the growing pains and, oh goodness, not being able to sleep, not being able to breathe because you're crushing my lungs. Just an overall beautiful experience that I would not rewrite or unwrite this chapter of my life at all whatsoever. Grieving is exceptionally hard. It is. Grieving is extremely hard. And without having the amount of support that I have from my family, I don't know how I would navigate this, honestly. My friends are great, and I also have two amazing therapists. One I was already seeing for a couple of years now, and then after this, started seeing a grief counselor. And if anyone's interested, I'm reading the grief handbook. It's called the Grief Recovery Handbook. And working from that with my grief counselor. And doing this, telling my story, hoping that I can be helpful to someone else who unfortunately is experiencing this very thing. YouTube was one of the first places that I turned because I was really shocked at the statistics of this, and I was just like, I have to hear someone else tell their story. I had to have an understanding of this being possible, or that I was not the only one. I had to hear someone else explaining that they were perfectly healthy. Their baby was perfectly healthy. They had a great, healthy pregnancy. They carried their baby full term, and this was the end result. I had to know that I was not the only one in the world that this had affected. I had to know that it wasn't just me. So I really appreciate people being so open and transparent and being able to do this. And I know for me, this is definitely another one of my coping mechanisms. Like, I want to educate people. I want to tell people what we are going through, what my experience was like, what it is like. This is a forever thing. This is a part of me. My baby is a part of me. So I wanted to come here to share my story and to hopefully help someone who is going through this. So I really appreciate you all for listening to me, share my story. See you next time.